Hi, this is Becky Weigel, Elementary Learning Facilitator for Barrington School District 220. This is January of 2015, and I am here to share with you a little bit of an overview of what we've got going on with our literacy curriculum for kindergarten through 5th grade here in District 220. First of all, we always start out with a curriculum review cycle. If you look at this chart, you can see that we are in the final stage, stage 4, evaluating of our reading program this year. Next year, we'll start researching again and thinking about how we might like to tweak and change our current program. When you look at writing, you can see that next year, 2015-16, will be our evaluation year to really look at what we've got going on in our writing program. At which point then in 2016-17, we'll start possibly researching and planning how we might tweak and change that. We want to share with you that we always keep the student at the heart of all we do. When you look at the components of the curriculum, a lot of people think it really is just the red piece, the materials, when in reality, there's a lot more at play than that. We have to look at assessment. We have to look at the enduring understandings or the habits of what goes on in the classroom. We have to look at the Common Core State Standards, which is the purple link. And then, of course, we're always talking about best practice and instructional practices that happen in the classroom. All of those pieces together make up the puzzle of our components. Here's just a brief definition of enduring understandings. We want our students to develop and have a reading life, a writing life, and have fun with words. This is our goal by the end of 5th grade. You can see that the assessment for learning and of learning involves both formative and summative assessments. This is something that we are doing all the time in the classrooms. Summative assessments measure really a child's learning throughout specific points of the school year, whereas formative assessments are ongoing, and really we just use them to guide our instruction. Okay, so for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to try to plow through this with you, and I'm going to tell you about our 220 literacy journey. I'm going to talk real briefly about the Common Core State Standards. I want to talk about our core material that we use in our program. And finally, I'm going to share a slide with how you can help at home. We want to start with what is literacy. Here, I'll give you about 10 seconds to read through the definition that we came up with for literacy, including reading, writing, oral communication, and word study. Our vision. We have to have a vision when we think about curriculum and where we want to go with our students. So here is our literacy vision for 220 students. So as we began our journey, we really had to look at what our goal was. We know that we want to inspire all learners to achieve excellence. This is a statement that the district has had for a while. So we always kept this in mind throughout our journey. We also have something that we call a coaching initiative. We're very fortunate to have literacy or instructional coaches come in and work with our teachers in the classrooms in all of the schools to help provide ongoing, job-embedded professional development. This was a big piece of our journey and a big shift to the way things had been done in 220. The next thing we want to touch on are the Common Core State Standards. The standards replaced the Illinois State Standards, which had been in place beforehand. When you look at this slide, you can see that there are reading standards for literature. That's fiction. There are reading standards for informational text, which is nonfiction. We have reading standards for foundational skills. We also have writing standards, speaking and listening standards, and language standards, all of which had to be taken into account when we planned our curriculum. Materials, as I mentioned earlier, is just a small piece, really, of a curriculum. In our district, we're fortunate to have a lot to pick from. We have what we call Making Meaning. We have what we call Stephanie Harvey's Comprehension Toolkit. We have an interactive read aloud by Linda Hoyt. We have genre studies that are different for every single grade level. An example of a genre study is studying poetry or studying historical fiction. We have a variety of small group texts from National Geographic, Scholastic, Newbridge, and more. And we have a word study program that we adopted from Kathy Gonski. We also have F&P, Fountas and Pinnell, phonics lessons for our young learners, and Jolly phonics lessons for our very young learners starting in kindergarten. The F&P, or Fountas and Pinnell curriculum, is a very key component. We call it the Bible of what we do. Finally, we have a Lucy Calkins Units of Study in Writing that we just adopted and are loving. In our district, we run what we call the workshop model. This is just a way to teach balanced literacy. So really, for our reading and writing, we have a workshop model. Okay, the components of the workshop model include a mini lesson, independent writing or reading, and teacher conferences, and sharing. Real quickly, the mini lesson is super short. It just lasts about 10 to 15 minutes, and it focuses on what the teacher wants to teach. In reading, we're looking at a craft that a reader, or maybe a comprehension strategy that a reader focuses on. In writing, we're looking at a specific craft or trait that a writer might do. Oftentimes, when teaching a mini lesson, a teacher will use a mentor text. After the mini lesson is over, the students spend about 40 minutes of their workshop doing independent reading or independent writing. While the students are doing independent reading or writing, the teacher is walking around performing conferences. A typical conference lasts 3 to 5 minutes. It's really just a conversation between the teacher and the student. We've provided a lot of professional development to our teachers on what a conference should look like. At the very end of the workshop model, we have what we call share time. Students are often given the opportunity to share what they worked on during workshop. This looks different every day. Sometimes students sit in a share chair and share out with their whole class. Sometimes they just turn and talk to a buddy about what they worked on. Another piece of our curriculum is word study. So when we talk about word study is always connected to reading and writing work. Typically, it's just a short 10 to 15 minute lesson. There's been a shift in word study over the last few years. When I was growing up, I would come home with a list of words on Monday and I would be tested on them on Friday. And everybody in my class had the exact same list of words. You know, the research has shown that that's not really always the best method because a lot of times students would get the words correct on their test, but the words would not transfer correctly into their writing. So we have put in place a differentiated word study program where students might still have a list of words they're working on during the week, but they're tailored to exactly what they need and what they need to be working on. Finally, how can I help my growing reader and writer at home? Here's some ideas. Some more ideas. Continued. Really, the bottom line is that you always want to make sure you're talking about reading and writing in all of the areas of our lives that entail reading and writing. Finally, I want to thank you for listening to my seminar today. Again, my name is Becky Weigel, and I can be reached at Barrington School District. My email is rweigel, RWIEGEL, at barrington220.org. Feel free to contact me with any questions you may have. Thank you so much for your time.